everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to Crowd Surfing. This is a show where we talk about Kickstarter. Woof! Kickstarter just never stops, does it? There's always new projects being added, and now that we are full-blown in convention season, a lot of companies will run Kickstarters simultaneously. So when you go there and say, that's interesting, they'll say, it's on Kickstarter right now. Sometimes they might even have the computer for you to go and log in and back it right then. I don't see that as much, but it is Kickstarter time, so let's get started with the news. Okay, so what's on Kickstarter right now? First, we have Vast Mysterious Manor. Now, this is a sequel of sorts to Vast. It's very similar as far as I can tell, but they're saying it's not just the same thing rehashed. In it, you're going to play one character. You'll be the paladin who is trying to kill this giant spider. Or you'll be a bunch of skeletons trying to kill the paladin. Or you'll be trying to spider, which is just trying to escape from this crazy manor. Or you can be the manor itself, trying to trap everyone inside. Or the enchanter who is trying to beguile other people. I like Vast. I like the ideas in it. I like the asymmetricalness of it. This seems cool. It does feel like a retread of the original one with just some slight difference in characters in a different location, a manor instead of a cave. But I'm still willing to give it a try. Yummy Yummy Pancake. Mayday Games doing this one. This is a game from Korea. I reviewed it before where you're basically trying to flip a certain number of pancakes over in a pan and then playing a little bit of memory. Definitely a kid's game, but a fun, you know, the pan and the pancakes and stuff. Goblivion, which, once again, broke the rule of don't name your company after your first game because the company is called Goblivion Games. But hey, this is a solo cooperative castle siege card game. It's a deck building style game, and you are going to be defending your castle together. They said that they based it on Stronghold, or they got their inspiration from Stronghold, from Portal Games, Dominion, and Friday. I don't really know how those would flow together very easily, but hey, maybe they do. Game Book. This is a book, actually, that's an interactive book of board games. Like, you open it up and the pieces you need, and there's different board games on different pages. Now, these are not new and interesting games. These are basically classic, ancient games from time gone by. It looks cool. It's kind of like a work of art. I don't know. I mean, and I think they show kids happily playing the games. With all this, I don't know why I would want to play these older games other than maybe historical, like, oh, that's how those games worked. Now let's go play something fun. But hey, who knows? There's a new expansion for Tricarion. This is the first big box expansion. Dalgard's Academy, and also a collector's edition. This adds new stuff, more things, for new magicians that you can be. New things, you can go to practice rooms, you can teach a protege about magic. So Tricarion has really, it wasn't a game that I enjoyed that much, but it's a game that a lot of people have really jumped into, and this expansion is probably making them just be exceedingly excited about what's coming in the future. Big Bad Con. This is a convention in Walnut Creek, California. It's from October 11th to the 14th. And so they charge for tickets to get into the con, but they also raise money through this Kickstarter, which is essentially a bid for advertising. You can back different things. It's a tabletop role-playing style con, so if you're interested in that, you can check it out. This year, they're adding things in so that you can play games there on Thursday night rather than just Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Black Sonata is my game of the week, or my Kickstarter project of the week. This one was shown to me during my showcase showdown at Origins, where they came by. It's a solo game, but it is fascinating to me. William Shakespeare wrote sonatas to some dark lady. We don't know who she was. You are trying to figure out who she is. So it's a deduction game, and it has this really cool cards with holes in it you're using for deductive to figure out exactly who someone is. I was so fascinated by this game. Very much looking forward to the final product. Again, I don't play solo games very much, but this one I will. Solomon Kane. Here's a huge project from Mythic Games. And of course, it's going to have a gazillion miniatures in it. Solomon Kane, a Puritan going out to fight evil. This is based on another IP with one of the best, easily, trailers I've ever seen for a Kickstarter, where they actually change the the graphical video into miniature. It's just amazing. I was very impressed by the production of that. But also looks like a fun game. Sam Healy played it at Origins and said he enjoyed it. Getaway Driver. This is from Uproarious Games. Their first game was Word Domination, so it's using that same staccato, hip, cool 60s imagery, but it's a two-player asymmetrical game. One person is a driver trying to do all kinds of weird stunts all over the city. The other person is the police trying to capture them. I like that idea a lot. Solar City, which is a solar punk game, which I didn't know, bet you did not know was a category. Like, oh, yeah, solar punk, that's what I'm into. It's a city building game as far as I can tell. It's called a build and block system. We're going to put down a city and get the abilities, I mean, a building and get the abilities, but you also block your opponents from using stuff in the same row and column. Sounds interesting. There's a lot of pieces. I like the idea of this one. I hope it's good. And then finally, So Long, My World. Now, what a weird game this one is. This is a game in which the world is about to end. You have a few hours left, and you need to discover yourself. Are you going to start killing people, like in revenge? Are you going to just try to stop what's happening? Are you going to just sit there and, why am I me? The game claims to be a work of art, which I always am hesitant about, because I think if a game is a work of art, let the reviewers say that, right? Not you yourself. But it's this, you know, the game that makes you think. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but is the game fun is what I want to know. I don't care if it's a work of art or not. But it certainly is something different. So that's So Long, My World. All right, let's keep moving.
Hey folks, and welcome to another FOMO, the segment where I take a look at a game that's seeking crowdfunding right now, and I haven't decided if I feel like I might miss out on this game if I don't back it. Maybe you're doing the same. Today I'm going to take a look at a game called When Cutie Met Patootie. When Cutie Met Patootie is a game for 1 to 4 where players are working to guide visitors through a forest, gathering and spending sprite gems along the way. All the while Rewind is flooding the path to spell certain doom. Players each have a citizen card assigned to them that is hidden from other players at the table. On a player's turn, they may do one of two actions, either play a card from their hand or move a character forward on the path. Cards from hand may be spent either quickly or slowly. When spending quickly, the player gives the gems depicted on the card completely to the character matching the card. Spending slowly allows the player to distribute the gems as they wish across the characters, but this causes a rewind action to happen, which will be explained in a minute. Advancing a character along the path is done by spending gems from the character's card that match the gems along the path they are moving. You can spend any 2 gems in place of a single gem if you wish instead. No more than 2 characters can occupy a single space on the path, and if a character is moving into space that matches their picture, they move into that space without paying the gem cost. When a player spends a card slowly, this causes a rewind event. A rewind card below the board is flipped over, advancing the timer. When the final rewind card in line is flipped, the bottommost row of the path is removed from play, and any characters still in those spaces are lost from play. Remove one of the rewind cards from the row and flip the remaining back over, starting a timer for the next row. When characters have all advanced past a row, an automatic flood happens as well, removing the last row, which depending on the timer status could cause a double flood. The game ends when only the top 3 cards of the path remain. Gems on the cards of the remaining characters are pulled off, and additionally the starting gem types of each remaining character is added. Players then add up their scores by gaining points for each gem in the pile that matches the gems depicted on their citizen card. The player with the most points is the winner. So that's an overview of When Cutie Met Patootie. Now before I get into my thoughts on the game, I did get to sit down with Daniel Zayas recently at Origins and got his thoughts on the game itself. So let me cut over to that and I'll be right back with my thoughts.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I am the creator of this game When Cutie Met Patootie. I really had fun making this game. I hope it is fun for everybody who sees it on the Kickstarter campaign. It has a timer that keeps up with itself. It has solo gameplay that is completely the same mechanics as the multiplayer. And I think that the world that I built it in is also a rewarding experience, and I hope that you have fun.
And why should they back it?
You should back it because this is a new type of game. It's a new type of game that I think that people will enjoy. There's a lot of interesting mechanics that are working together to create a very fun and enjoyable 30 to 45 minute experience.
All right, so now you've heard from Daniel, and I do appreciate him taking time to sit down with us. And I actually got to play this game with him a few times. Now, the first thing about the game that I wasn't crazy about was the name. And it's not because it's overly cutesy or anything. It just doesn't roll off my tongue very well. When Cutie Met Patootie. It sounds a little odd. I get the reference. The name just doesn't roll for me, but I think it's the appropriate name for this game. As to the gameplay itself, I kind of really enjoyed this one more than I thought I would. There were two games that kept popping to mind, and one is a game that I kind of like and a game that I really, really dislike. And the first one is a game called Sugi, which this game sort of reminded me of, moving the characters along the path and the way the players are working. And then for some reason I kept drawing comparisons to a game that I dislike called Bear Valley. Now it's nothing like that game, but it just gave me that sort of feeling, but not in a bad way. I did like how the game is not cooperative, but you do have to kind of work cooperatively together. You do need to move those characters, and there's a bit of trying to figure out what your opponents are trying to move along the path and what they're not. The other thing that I found interesting in the game was that rewind action. Because as you are moving the characters along, you have choices. You have to decide if you're going to efficiently spend or inefficiently spend. And that's going to cause those rewinds to happen when you want to spread out those sprite gems. So I like the way that worked, and I like how it just keeps the game moving, especially if the characters move forward on the path, it causes an auto flood. And sometimes, a lot of times, I saw that create that double flood. Overall, I really did enjoy this game. I think it could be a wonderful addition to my smaller box collection. I know that they are relaunching the Kickstarter because they had canceled it last week. At the time you're seeing this, the relaunch should already be underway, and that's coming in at a lower price point that I think is going to be more appropriate to the game. If you've enjoyed this look at it, go check out their Kickstarter, and I look forward to seeing you folks next episode.
Meh. Kickstarter fatigue, right? Do you have it? I get it sometimes, right? It's really hard to get excited about Kickstarter sometimes. Now, the whole thing about Kickstarter is it has to be exciting. Excitement is what drives the campaigns. Exciting stretch goals, exciting new things, expansions, and excitement. Woo, 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 woo. They get reviewers, and the reviewers come in, and the reviewers are extremely excited. They get the backers are excited, and they go tell everybody else. But what happens when that excitement fades? Now, Kickstarter fatigue, I think all of us get it to some degree. When someone first discovers Kickstarter and they start backing things, it's like, what is this? And then the games start coming in, and it's amazing. You back a CMON project or a Mythic or Monolith project, and you come and you get these huge boxes, and that is thrilling. But you back other projects, you get these little indie games, you're like, wow, these are really neat. But after a while, can there be Kickstarter fatigue? Can you get Kickstarter fatigue because A, you've been burned a lot? These games come in, you're like, these are not really that great. And the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of Kickstarter projects that aren't great. Every time when I go over my news, I talk about a lot of games that sound really cool, but the fact is, when many of them come out, they're simply not that great of games. A lot of them are, too. Also, Kickstarter fatigue because there's just so much of it. You got a lot of great games. You get the CMON latest game with 6,000 miniatures, and now you're going to play that game for a while, and I don't really have time to jump on the next project. Or maybe just fatigue because you're tired of hearing about it. Right? That old man, get off my lawn. I don't want to hear about Kickstarter projects every single day. Well, that's just kind of tied into the cult of the new of board gaming, so that's not going to go away anytime soon. But I'm curious, this is something I like to see in the comments. Do you have Kickstarter fatigue in a sense where, like, I backed a whole bunch of projects, but now I need to take a break? I was doing a whole lot of Kickstarter. Now I'm just going to step away for a while. I'm just overwhelmed by whatever. And maybe you took a break from Kickstarter and then it kind of refreshed and invigorated you and it came back. Or maybe you took that break and you're like, yeah, I'm done with it. Of course, if that's the case, you're probably not watching this video. So I'm just curious about that. What are ways to battle Kickstarter fatigue? Maybe just looking at a project once in a while. Maybe following somebody who will say, hey, I looked at all the Kickstarter projects this week. Here's one or two that I think are worth checking out. I think that's actually a pretty useful thing. Somebody who can kind of go in and curate them. I do that slightly on this show where I pick a Kickstarter project of the of the show. I do this show bi-weekly. But I mean, it's, again, I'm kind of just surface looking at all these projects. But if someone had a job where they went in and looked at them all and kind of said, this is what this game's about, this is what I think, and I could read a summary, maybe that would be one way and say, okay, here's the one that's interesting, or none of these look interesting, I'll move on to something else. Either way, I think the idea is interesting of Kickstarter fatigue. I think it definitely happens to people. I'd like to know why and how you deal with it in the comments. Either way, let's keep going.
Hi, this is Jamie with Stonemeyer Games, and today I'm going to talk about behavioral psychology and how it relates to crowdfunding. Behavioral psychology is the study of why people act the way they do, often in terms of economics or pricing or consumerism, but it's much bigger than that too. There are two authors I highly recommend you checking out. They both have TED Talks and books. They're Dan Ariely and Daniel Pink, both fascinating authors who talk about a wide variety of studies and experiments about behavioral psychology. There are three aspects I wanted to touch upon today as they relate to crowdfunding and Kickstarter. The first is that studies show that seeing another human's face, whether it's a photo or a video, seeing their actual face can significantly increase empathy. This was shown in a study involving x-rays, people who were studying x-rays. If they saw the person's face next to the x-ray, they were actually significantly more likely to catch things that were wrong in the x-ray. So this relates to crowdfunding in that I highly recommend that you use a photo of your actual face as your personal thumbnail on the project page. And also make sure that your face appears in the project video and occasionally in project updates. This can help backers connect to you and relate to you and empathize with you as a creator. The second element is that humans feel compelled to do things that are consistent with our stated intentions. If you say you're going to do something, you're more likely to do it just because you said it. That's ingrained in your head, in your psyche at that point. And so this element of consistency can be used for backers and for crowdfunding if you have a Facebook event leading up to the Kickstarter campaign that lets people say that they're interested in it or that they're going to attend the campaign. Just by giving people that opportunity to say, yes, I'm going to show up on day one, can actually have a significant impact on whether or not they do show up on day one as a backer. The last thing is a twist on empathy. Instead of having backers relate to you and empathize with you, I think it's also really important for creators to empathize with their backers. This is something that I've run into on both sides of the coin, where sometimes someone might say something on a project page or during a campaign that makes me defensive instinctively. And I've learned a little trick to get over that, because getting defensive never works out well. I've never seen that work out well. So the trick that I've learned is that if someone says something and as I feel myself typing something that might be a little harsher than it needs to be, or something that might broaden the gap between us instead of bringing us closer together, is that I pretend that I'm writing an answer to my best friend. And as I'm sure you are with your best friend, you might say things differently to your best friend, or your mother, or your grandmother, someone that you have a lot of empathy for. You might say things in a much more relatable way, in a much kinder way than if you are talking to a random person on the internet. So I highly recommend using that little trick in those moments where you might not show the best side of yourself. And by doing this, I find myself empathizing more with the other person, connecting with them, seeing them as a person rather than a few lines of angry text on the internet. So those are my three tips for behavioral psychology to increase the connections, the relationships, and the number of backers that you have as part of your campaign, the number of engaged backers. Good luck.
Hey, hello there Crowd Foundation, I'm Gil Mello, and today I'm gonna tell you the new game that I backed on Kickstarter. I love dice placement and I love engine building, and I got a game that combined both of them. The game is Fantastic Factories. Let's take a look how it plays. Fantastic Factories is a dice placement game for 1 to 5 players designed by Joseph Z. Chang and Justin Faulkner. This is basically a work placement game with an engine building. We're going to race to build factories better and more productive than your opponents. You're also going to be able to manipulate the dice during the game as well as doing a little bit of hand management. The goal is to earn as many points as possible, and you can do that by acquiring a lot of prestige or goods, and you're going to use different buildings for that. Each build on your compound is going to be worth a amount of prestige shown on the top right of the card. On top of that, factories can manufacture goods. You're going to see the little crate symbol in there, and you're going to accumulate those goods throughout the game. So the end score game is going to be the number of goods you have plus the total of prestige, and whoever has the largest amount of points win. The game end is triggered by any player that has manufactures 12 or more goods or has 10 or more building in their compounds. All the players will finish their round and then tally all the points to see who's the winner. Each player will begin with a start compound area, a metal, 2 energies, and 4 unique colored dice. Each round will consist of 2 phases, basically. During the market phase, players take turns drafting a card from the marketplace. After all players have drafted, the work phase begins, and then during the work phase, all players will roll their dice at the same time, and then place their workers, or their dice, and build factories. During the market phase, you can take a blueprint and add it to your hand, or you can simply discard a card and hire a contractor. The game comes with beautifully illustrated cards that have unique abilities like production, training your workers, building monuments, and a variety of things to help you increase your engine building, help you to produce more goods, so you can have a very efficient compound facility. You're able to build cards by discarding a card that has the same tool symbol than the card you want to buy. On top of that, you're going to pay the resource cost so you can acquire that card. Then you're going to be able to activate your compound and your cards, even the ones you just acquired. And you can use your trading facilities to manipulate your dice, and they will help you to run the factories a little better so you can get the correct number in order to run your factories.
Initially, this game seems very simple, and rule-wise, it is simple, but there's a lot of decision-making, a lot of strategies to go into this game. You cannot go for just one kind of cards. You have to have a good balance on what you acquire. Cards to place your dice so you can acquire more goods and another resources. You also have to get some workers to help produce your stuff, but you need to send them on training, so you need training cards. There are some cards that are called Beacon, that it's kind of a set collection. So it's very interesting. A lot of game in just a small package like that. I think the board looks good. All the cards are tastefully designed, although, very colorful, are not silly. The icons make sense. It's everything is really clear, really easy to understand. They also have an interactive deck where you can interact more with the other players. So you're gonna get cards where you can create sabotage and other things that can, kind of bug your opponents a little bit. So it's a really fun, I really love, and I think this is going to be a game we're going to be hearing a lot about it when it comes out. So hope you enjoy, hope you take a look. Fantastic factories. As I said, they have another week yet on the Kickstarter, and it's worth to take a look. I guess I'll see you guys next time, and keep funding.
Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview recap. These preview videos are really meant to give you a feel, a sense of the game, just an overview, and ultimately it's up to you to decide if it's something you wish to back. And we still may find some things we like about these games, but overall, everything is in prototype form, and these are paid previews from the publishers. First up, we have Solar City. Solar City is this futuristic city where you're building skyscrapers and different types of gardens and different abilities that each of these buildings have will possibly chain off of each other. And more importantly, there's a grid system here where when you activate a certain grid area, that prevents your fellow players from activating that same area. It will essentially block them. So there's a lot of challenges and strategies you must employ in order to figure out the best city to create. Solar City is brought to you by Games Factory. It's for 2 to 4 players. It ranges from ages 10 and up, and its playtime is 30 to 45 minutes. Next up, we have Evil Corp. Evil Corp is a game where you're trying to construct your evil plan. There's 3 phases to your plan, and you must find the right cards, definitely some hand management going on here, and a lot of take that because your corporation is trying to be the most evil of the bunch, while you're using agents to help thwart against your other fellow players and their evil corporations getting the foothold. It incorporates a really neat base that you get to construct as you play out the phases of your evil plan. Evil Corp is brought to you by Newbie Games Company. It's for 2 to 6 players, ages 13 and up, and it plays in 45 minutes to 2 hours. Last but not least, we have Raccoon Tycoon. In this game, you will be producing commodities in an ever-changing marketplace. You'll be taking the funds and bidding on railroads, trying to complete sets for even larger points. You will also be taking the commodities and building towns to attach to these railroads, again for even more points. Now, there are also buildings in this game that can really change up how you play each time, gaining you more commodities or more money, just all kinds of different powers and really unique buildings that you can implement as you play. Raccoon Tycoon is from Forbidden Games. It's for 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up, and it plays in 60 to 90 minutes. For more details on any of the games mentioned here, please check out our full previews and see if any of these games might be a good fit for you. And if you wish to have your game featured as a Dice Tower paid preview, please reach out to Tom or myself. Keep an eye out for more previews in the near future, folks. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.
And that's it for another crowd surfing show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to all the guys who do a great job putting this stuff together for this episode. And I hope that you enjoyed it. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been Crowd Surfing.